This is the Aunty and Brain Tumours talk show. It's a show full of informative chat and inspirational messages. The Aunty and Brain Tumours talk show on podcast. Hello, welcome to Aunty and Brain Tumours talk show. I'm your host Claire, and we've got an important mission this month. It is Brain Tumour Awareness Month, and we're shedding light on a crucial issue. Brain tumours claim more lives among children and adults under 40 than any other cancer. Shockingly, only 1% of the national spend on cancer research is allocated to this silent threat. But fear not, because today, right here on Aunty and Brain Tumours talk show, we're taking a stand. We're not just talking statistics. We're sharing stories, real, heartfelt stories from people all around the globe who have been touched by a brain tumour. It's time to raise our voices and spread the word. By listening in, you're joining a movement to make a difference. So today, I'll be speaking to Maxine.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you very much for coming to share your experience and also just be a part of Brain Tumour Awareness Month. Let's go back to the beginning. Tell us, when was it you started having any symptoms?
Yeah. So I started not feeling myself for about 6 months to a year before I was diagnosed, but it wasn't something I was overly concerned about. I thought I was getting symptoms of perimenopause because there was so much on the news and all my friends were getting it, and it was something we were all talking about. I was 43, so quite young to get it, but that's what I thought it was. I went to the doctors and I said, look, I'm getting night sweats. I've got a bit of a headache. I'm really irritable all of the time. They put me on HRT patches, and I was on those for a couple of months. But around that time, my marriage was breaking up as well. And I'd moved out with my children into a rental house. We were so busy and life was really busy that I didn't really pay any more attention to it until in November of that year. I'd just finished a spin class, had a fantastic session, felt really good, felt really fit, felt really alive in the class. I felt like I'd really pushed myself the hardest I've ever pushed, and it was great. It wasn't a bad feeling. I felt elated. Came out of the class, I was with 3 of my friends and we sat in my van. I have a type of camper van, and we sat in the back and we were having coffee, and I was making the coffee. Actually, I was stood up making the coffee for everyone. And they were sat, we were all chatting as usual. And I don't remember this, but they've told me since that I just started to not make sense. I wasn't really responding to what they were asking me or what we were talking about. I wasn't responding coherently. And then I started to look into the sky, apparently. And my friend just held my hand and said, "Are you okay, Max?" And then another friend noticed that I didn't look right. So she got out of the van and came round. And as she did, I collapsed rigidly. So she held me. And then I went into a full seizure where, again, they described this. I have no memory of this whatsoever. They described me, my whole body tense, my hands and feet bent back on themselves, my eyes rolled back. And that was for about 5 to 10 minutes, I think. And they called the ambulance. They ran into the gym, got a first aider. She came out, but she couldn't do anything with me. She couldn't put me in a recovery position because I was so rigid and I was fitting. I was foaming at the mouth. And then they called the ambulance. The ambulance got there quite quickly. And the next thing I knew, I'd woken up in the ambulance, not a clue what had happened, apart from the fact that I'd wet myself. That's the first thing. I thought, why am I wet? What's happened here? And they explained and what had happened to me.
I had the same thing where I'd wet myself
Yes.
and I was absolutely
Yeah.
mortified. I woke up and I've got like a brand new outfit on. I was wearing jeans, now I'm wearing tracksuit bums. And I'm thinking, what's
Yeah.
going on? And then there's an ambulance lady over me as well. And I'm thinking, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
find out, oh, you've
It's
had a
really
seizure.
yeah. And that shocked me because I didn't know really. I've heard of them. I just didn't realise that I could have one. I thought that was something that happened to people who were epileptic or,
Yeah.
you know, and I'd felt so good immediately before it, which was strange. I was taken to hospital after the seizure. They did an ECG and they discharged me and said for a follow-up with my GP. I was sent home. I was told to drive. I was sent home, and I I don't know really how I got through that week, but my friends said she's not gonna be on her own. They formed this sort of rota around me, so there was always one of my friends with me, checking on me and the children. And then this is a bit I get a bit fuzzy around. My friend Kelly said to me, "You can't live on your own anymore," and she got a group of them, and they basically evicted me from my rental house and put me back into my ex-husband's home with the children, with him, so I always had someone with me. And then that weekend, I just started to get headaches, and again, they weren't anything crazy, it was just a bit of a headache, and I happened to mention it to Kelly, and she said, you've got to call 111," and I did, and they said to go into hospital then. So we went into A&E and E and we just waited, and it was over the nurses' strikes and all that time, so we were waiting a long time, and then eventually I saw a doctor who booked me in for the following day for a scan. So then I went back and I went for a CT scan, and then I came out of the scan and they said, "Oh, we're just gonna put some dye in now," and then I went back in again for another CT scan with the dye. And then they said, "Actually, we just need to do an MRI on you now." Okay. So wheeled down,
You're
get an
thinking
MRI
there's
scan.
thinking something isn't right here. Why do you need another one?
At the third scan, and then I had a fourth, I thought, "Oh, okay, something's really not right at this point." And so, yeah, it's the waiting. You're just waiting. You're put back in a waiting room and you're waiting to see a doctor again. And I just remember feeling really happy at the time. My friends just kept visiting me, and I thought, how lucky am I? All these people and my children and my ex-husband and people are coming in to see me. And I felt, oh, this is quite nice. And I just remember it feeling great, which of course it wasn't great. And then I was called into a room, and the consultant said to me, "We found a mass on your brain and it's quite large, and we think it might be a tumour." And I said, "What else could it be if you only think it might be a tumour?" And he said, "We don't really know." So I said, "Okay." He said, "The good news is you've got nothing else in the rest of your body. That's why we did the MRI scan." So to me, I focused on that. And then he said, "We need to refer you now to Oxford John Radcliffe." And that's what happened. So I was sent home. I was put on steroids immediately and anti-seizure medication and told not to do anything.
How long were you on steroids for?
I was on them in total for a couple of months.
And how did you feel
Yeah,
being on steroids? Just because they made me the Hulk?
yes, that's exactly right, and it's mind altering, isn't it? And it's physically altering, and you're not yourself at all. And but I didn't know that, and that's the thing. When you're on the drugs, you think everything you're doing is perfectly normal, but I was manic, so I didn't sleep at all the whole time I was on them. I would fall asleep for maybe an hour when my body was so physically exhausted, but I would wake up wide awake and I would write and write, and I couldn't stop writing. I would be writing notes because, of course, I went on them before the surgery and I had all this time to think. So I was planning what would happen if I didn't come out of the surgery. I was planning what would happen if I was physically or mentally disabled, or if I lost my sight or my hearing, or all the things that you're told are the risks of having surgery. And I put on a lot of weight. I couldn't stop eating, could
Mm.
not stop eating. And it was chocolate ginger biscuit. I had to be within about 2 meters of a packet of chocolate ginger biscuits.
I think
And
I put on 2 stone when I was on
did you?
steroids.
Yeah.
I put this 2 stone on and I
Uh-huh.
was just like, "Great."
Yeah, I was just living in bed in
Yeah.
pajamas, and because they told me to bed rest as well. So it was even worse. I wasn't exercising or anything. I was just eating. But I think one of the worst parts of the steroids was the paranoia. I just felt paranoid
Mm.
and worried and manic. And I was glue gunning things to the wall. I would get my daughter's glue gun and I would take little plastic animal toys and I would glue them down the side of a shelf or on a wall, or just randomly glue gunning things to. why was I thinking that was helpful?
I think because you're trying to be in
Oh, but
control, so you're like, "I'm gonna do this. Good. I need to have
yeah,
some control because I'm have
yeah,
no control over what's going on." I started tidying things up, it then being a bit
yes,
obsessive that I think
that's
freaked
that's
everybody
it.
out.
Yeah, I have a friend actually who said to me the other day, she said, "Oh, I've still got a bag of your clothes in the garage that," she said, I'd come round and you'd just go, take this, Kirsty, just take this bag of clothes, or oh, I've got too many mugs. Take all these mugs." And people have still got bits of my stuff around because every time someone came round, I'd be like, "Take this, I don't want it." And I would be, like you've just said, obsessively organising. I needed things to be in order. And you're right. Now I look back, yeah, probably it was trying to control something because
Mm,
I was so out of control of everything else.
yeah. So you then had to stay home for a bit, and then you've then been brought
Yes.
in for the surgery. How was
Yeah,
that?
yeah. So I was told I was having the surgery on the Sunday, and then they called me on the Sunday and said, "We've got no bed. So you're having it on the Monday now." So you're basically waiting for a phone call, which is crazy, really, when you think of it. But then I understand now why, because they've got to have so many beds ready for you, because you've got to obviously have the theatre ready, you've got to have a ward bed ready, but you've also got to have a high dependency unit bed ready and a critical care unit bed ready because they don't know how you're going to come out of surgery. So they have to have all that. And then they have to have all the staff for theatre, which is what, I don't know, 9, 10 staff all ready. And of course, they're dealing with road traffic accidents or things that come in that are not planned. So they can't tell you when you're going to go in. So I found that very odd. But now, since I understand why. So yeah, I was called on the morning and I was told to come in at 7 in the morning on the Monday. And I just went down with my little bag and then I was in the waiting room, went to speak to the anaesthetist, and he talked through what would happen to me and how I would be put under general anaesthetic, which I'd never had before, and I'd basically be put into a coma. They would be using equipment to help to breathe for me, and how it would feel to go under that. And he was great. And then I was taken down, and all the pre-op happened, and you change into your gown, and you're in a room with 10 other people, all having pre-ops. So you're having you're having a cannula put in, ready. You're having your little wristband put on. They told me I had to have a pregnancy test, so I was having a pregnancy test. All these things just right before the operation, and then suddenly it's just go, the room's ready, you gotta go. So I was just wheeled in, and as I was wheeled into the room, this was the thing that hit me, was I was very positive since they told me I had a tumour and I needed to be operated on. I was always very positive. Because I was just grateful that they'd found it, and I thought, "This is great, they're gonna be able to get it out, it'll be fine." And as I was being wheeled into the operating theatre, I passed a child on a hospital trolley, and I just thought, "You know what, Max, you're 43, this child is having an operation as well, and you cannot feel sad, you've got to feel grateful that you've got this far, at
Mm.
least, you know? This is happening to children." And that really shocked me, actually. Then I went into the room where they put you under general anaesthetic, and I just remember a swarm of people around me, and I was put into some sort of, I don't know if you had this, I was put into, it was almost like a blow up suit. They put these things around my legs that they blew hot air into that just apparently regulates your body temperature. Did you have
I
that?
didn't. No, I hadn't heard of that.
It was about your body temperature, so it gets
Oh,
very
wow.
cold in the operating theatre, and of course, when you're not breathing and regulating yourself, I guess you can't regulate your own body temperature. So it was like a warm blanket. It was lovely. It
Yeah.
felt great. And then when he put the anaesthetic in, I was in a lovely place. I was
Yeah.
just looking up, and he said, "You're gonna start feeling quite tipsy now." And I thought, "I've not had a drink in ages, so this is great, you know?" And then I said, "I'm starting to feel tipsy now," and then I was under, and then I was gone.
You were saying that one of your friends was a GP and one who was a surgeon as well.
That's right.
Was it
That's right.
before or after they gave you some advice from their point of view?
Yeah, they, reassured me beforehand. So my friend, yeah, my best friend from school, she's a GP, and she happens to be married to a consultant neurosurgeon. And when I had my diagnosis, he talked me through, and he calmed me down quite a lot and said that I had the best brain tumour I could have got out of any of them. One of the most straightforward, and it all depends exactly where it is on the brain, but it sounds positive. And
Mm.
recovery rate is good. And I thought I felt quite good about that. And that was before the surgery. They gave me a lot of support. And then afterwards, again, their advice was great. He told me you could have a long recovery or you could recover quite quickly. But he said, you just need to get on with your life after you've had brain surgery. If you've woken up and if you're okay, you just need to get on with it, which was quite interesting, I think, quite practical.
Have you needed any rehabilitation?
I had occupational therapy afterwards where they were testing my memory. I was in hospital for about 4 days after the operation. That was obviously quite a lot recovery. And then when I came out of there, it was the mental side of things I found really difficult. I was very confused. I was still on steroids for a little while afterwards because obviously they have to wean you off those. So I was still going through all of that. And I still struggle very much now with times and dates and the time of year. I can't quite get my head around time. I can't get over that it's now, what are we, February? I don't know. It could be September. Things don't make sense to me in that way anymore. I've started to have some counselling because I've only really started to think about what happened because the last year I've just been recovering. And part of that process is things just really trying to get myself organised, trying to keep notes, keep diaries about what's happening. I think the effects I've been left with are definitely some memory loss. I forget what I've said. I struggle with noise. I really struggle with chaotic environments or a lot of people talking or a bar or something like that. And I don't understand now how people can go to a bar, listen to music and have a conversation. That makes no sense. I
So
could
yeah, it's a
listen
bit
to the music.
overwhelmed. Yeah, get overwhelmed, and then
Yeah.
you're like, I actually need to leave the room or find somewhere
Yes.
quieter.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wear earplugs pretty much all of the time now, and they just cut down the noise. I do struggle with that. I struggle with the fast pace. I think everything feels very fast now. And whereas I'm taking my time, I'm still quite disorientated. So I'll lose my balance quite a lot. So I can't really talk to someone while I'm walking downstairs, for example,
You
or I can't,
concentrate.
I
Yeah.
find, yeah, yeah. But again, these are things that I'm just learning to live with. It's nothing I've had necessarily rehabilitation for. I'm just taking my time and there'll be things like because my tumour was in the right frontal lobe, the the left side, I find I have problems with my left side, so I'll go to pick something up with my left hand and completely miss it, and little things like that I'm still sort of living with, and I don't know again, my actual consultant said to me, "You could from this type of surgery, you could have a 22-month recovery period." I don't know why he didn't just say 2 years, probably because it sounds less, but
Yeah.
it's gonna take me a while longer. So I still just very patient with myself and thinking, "Oh, this might change."
Yeah. When you said you were doing some counselling, who were you doing the counselling through?
Yeah, so that's through the Brain Tumour charity, actually. I've been doing a little bit of Googling. Oh, that was another thing, sorry, that my friend and her husband, the surgeon, said, "Do not Google anything. As soon as you find out you've got a brain tumour, don't Google." And I
Yeah.
didn't. And I'm so grateful that I didn't. But now I want to do things to help other people who have brain tumours. So I've been doing a lot of Googling and I've found out all these facts since. And one of the places I got in touch with was the Brain Tumour charity. And they're at the moment, they're offering free counselling for anyone who's been affected by a brain tumour or so the person themselves or their friends or family
Yeah.
because it's very hard on them. And I still think it was harder on them and still is than it is on me. And so they're giving 6 weeks of counselling through Relate or anyone. And I started that a couple of weeks ago and I found it really helpful so far.
Yeah. How did you explain things to the children?
The children were kept away from it quite a lot by my ex-husband. My youngest daughter is autistic and she struggles with any sort of change anyway, but to see me how I was, which was different, and no child wants to see their mum being ill, and they really struggled around that time. And it's only afterwards now they still they talk to me about it and we discuss it and we're back in a really good place now and it's great. They both really helped me out. And I think one of the major things for me was after I'd had the tumour removed, and I'd gone for my follow-up appointment with my consultant about 3 months later, I think it was, and I explained to him some of the symptoms that I was experiencing, and he said to me, "I think these are symptoms that a lot of people who have autism experience as well." And obviously autism is a spectrum, so it's not everyone, but some people with autism experience these overwhelming feelings, or this feeling of too much noise, or people talking all at once. And I thought, that's exactly what my daughter experiences, and it helped me understand her more. And in that respect, we were able to build our relationship as well.
Yeah.
And as they saw me getting better, they were great. I think they just really struggled with it when I was ill.
Yeah. You've gone on to do some charity work that you did with one of your friends.
Yeah,
Tell us about
that's right.
the charity work you've done.
Yeah, so as I was getting better, you have this elation. I don't know if you felt this, but I felt elated to be alive. I felt so grateful to be here. And as I came off the steroids and I started to feel just happy all the time, I thought, I need to do something. I need to do something to feel alive. And so I thought, what can I do? And I thought, I've seen also these people, and I've found out that there's so little funding that goes into brain tumour research. It's something like 1% of the whole of the government funding towards cancers. Only 1% of that goes into brain tumour research. And I thought, that is crazy. So I thought, what can I do? What can I do while I'm not at work and I'm recovering? What can I do? I know what I'll do. I'll cycle 274 miles and raise some money for the Brain Tumour Research Charity.
Nothing easy.
And then I realised that I couldn't. Yeah, that's not a problem. So I was back at the gym, but I really wasn't back at full fitness at all. So I, of course, roped in the trusty friends. And I said, come on, let's do this. And my friend Kelly is brilliant at organising anything like this. So she just got everyone involved, and we did the miles between us. So we didn't do it in one day, but we did the miles between us over August. And the reason it was 274, because that was 10% of the cost for one day's research into brain tumours. So we thought, if we raise, that's great. We ended up raising a full day's cost, and then we've continued to raise money, and now we're nearly at 2 days research funding. So we've continued that. And then this year I thought, I'll just keep the pot open and I'll carry on, and I've signed up to do a half marathon to raise money that way as well. So I'll be walking it, or I'll be dragged around, but I'll do it. There's no way I'll be running it. I won't be one of those keen ones at the front. I'll be the one at the back, dressed in some sort of fancy dress. But people just feel sorry
do you
for
know,
them.
any opportunity to dress up and I'm in. I'm like, put an outfit on me,
Well,
I'm
you'll
in.
just sign up.
Yeah.
Come on, I'll sign you up. I'll drag you around. Yeah. They said something like, what do you think your finish time would be? And I thought, it's going to be about 8 hours, but that wasn't an option. You had to do it about 4. I thought, oh God. But yeah, so I've still been doing that, and my gym have been brilliant. They set up different charity spin-a-thons and cake sales, and friends again have set up different ways of fundraising for me. So we've managed to raise quite a bit, and that's for brain tumour research.
That's amazing.
But I've also had, it is good. And I've also had help from other places. Like I say, the Brain Tumour Charity, which are separate, they do the counselling. Also Headway, who have a local branch in Swindon, but they have them all over. They're another sort of local support where they do rehabilitation. They do mindfulness, things like that. They do a lot of support on information about anything in the brain, so you can learn about what the symptoms you're experiencing and why they're affecting you in the way they are.
What type of operation did you have?
So I had a full craniotomy. So they cut me from my ear, my left ear, to my right ear. They shaved a portion of hair out, which is almost like, they called it an Alice band type shave. So I imagine pulled my face down, which is quite a strange
It's gross,
thing
isn't
to
it?
imagine. And then and then that's exactly what the surgeon
Let's
said.
be
He
honest.
said, he said, it's really gory.
Oh,
I don't like this sort of surgery. I thought, you're the surgeon. He said,
I
yes,
can't
but
watch
normally I go
films.
in through the eyebrow.
Yeah, I can't watch films where someone takes off the head off a skull. I'm like, no, I can't watch it. I don't even watch Casualty, the
No.
program, anymore, because
Oh,
I'm
God.
so
No, I get you.
squeamish.
Yeah. Oh, no. Oh, no. Yeah, I feel sorry for those people watching my face being taken off. Yeah, so they used an electric saw to saw out he called it a credit card size piece of bone out of my skull, which was just above my right eyebrow. So between my eyebrow and my hairline under there. So they took out a rectangle of skull and then they went under the next layer of you've got your meninges layer, they went under that, and then under that they found the it was a 5 centimeter tumour. So it was about the size of a lime plus swelling. So it had a lot of swelling around it. And
Yeah.
it actually the tumour had actually grown into my skull. So it had gone like a volcano into my skull, he said. So he had to shave again, probably using some form of drill. So it's all quite Bob the Builder. I'm sure it's not.
Bob
I'm
the
sure he wasn't
Builder.
like Bob the Builder.
We can fix
Very
it.
much. I hope they were doing that. I must ask him.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they carved it out, and weirdly, I did say to them before before I went under, I said, "Can I keep the tumour afterwards?" And they said, "No, you can't keep the tumour, Max. We need to send that off and get it tested, so that
Oh, of
goes to a
course.
brain
Yeah.
bank." But yeah, and then they put me back, put my face back, put the piece of skull back with I've got some metal screws, which he was very proud to tell me that he'd countersunk those screws into my skull, so I could feel them. I was quite pleased about that too, again. It's like DIY SOS in
Yeah.
my skull. And then put my face back, and then I had 50 staples from ear to ear.
What did you feel when they're
Yeah.
taking the staples out and it's a bit
Mm,
of a weird
yeah.
sound? How did, because
Yeah.
I cannot remember how many staples I had. I know it took quite a while to have them taken out, but I also remember thinking this
Yeah.
sounds disgusting. And I know
It
like it
does.
didn't hurt. I know others say
No.
sometimes it does, and it's normally because the dry blood is pulling at your skin rather than the staple hurting you.
Right.
But I'm like, I don't think it really hurt. I think maybe once it was a little bit uncomfortable, but I'm like, isn't it just weird that's in your brain and you don't really
Yes.
feel
It's
it?
so
It's like a
strange.
numb feeling, isn't
Yeah.
it? Like you can feel it and
Yeah.
it's not a great numb feeling. It's just it's odd,
No,
isn't
it's
it?
like yeah, it's a really odd sensation. So
Yeah.
it's not painful, but you can feel some sort of tugging. I think
Yes.
that's how I described it. But I'm still numb around that scar now. So
Yeah.
you can't see it so much because my hair's growing back now. I've just got odd tufts of hair that come out at various angles.
Mm.
I can't really feel I can feel where the scar is and I can feel where I was sewn and stapled. But no, when they took the staples out, I've actually got a video of it. I'll send it you if you want to
Really?
see it. But yes, I got
How
my
did you
friend
get
because
that?
my friend wanted to because I went to the GP because you go a week after surgery to the GP to get them taken out, and I went with
Oh,
my
okay,
friend,
yeah.
and I was still on a high again because I'd woken up, I'd made it,
Yeah.
and another friend wanted to come along because she's into all that. She's into all that gory stuff. And she said, "I really want to come and watch you get your staples taken out." And I said, "Oh, you can't." So I tell you what, we'll video it. We videoed a few of them being
Oh,
taken out, but
wow.
then my friend stopped because she was feeling a bit sick videoing
Yeah.
it. But yeah, it didn't hurt at all. It didn't hurt at all. I was just laughing through it. I thought it was great because the other thing was I hadn't been able to wash my hair for a week
Yeah.
because of these staples. So I've got all this dried blood and God knows what brain fluid. I had a drain out of my head as well. You have the tube, don't you, coming
Yeah.
out of your head that drains all the excess fluid off. So it wasn't very nice. So I was just desperate to get these staples out and go home and wash my hair.
I remember having the
That felt really good.
staples. I remember having the staples out, and I've got one of those reflux reactions, and so every time I heard stuff,
Oh.
I'm like, and my mum's was with me, and she just, "Oh, stop it,"
Yeah.
and I'm like, "I can't help it." I
No,
just
it
the
is
easiest
that.
things makes me do that, and it's so annoying.
Do you know that's funny actually? I just did you get so I get this feeling sometimes, I don't get it so much now, I guess because it's healed, but sort of in the first 6 months I'd hear this sort of crunch. It's gonna sound horrible. Oh god, you're gonna have your reflux
Oh
reaction
god.
now, but it sounds I don't know if you're ready, but it's be brave, okay? Be brave.
Okay. I'm getting a
It
sweat
sounds
now.
like a sounds like a You've been through brain surgery. I promise you, you can deal with what
Yeah,
I'm
it's
about to
true.
say,
It's true.
okay?
I'm ready.
It sounds like a wet crunching in your brain or in your skull. Did you ever get that? Like it sounds it
I can't
melding
think.
together and healing for a bit.
I felt
Mm.
like, so the way I explained this, I wrote a book once, and when I explained it, because someone else
Mm.
said it, and I thought, yeah, so you know when you put like you've got a knife and you put it in one of the holders of a knife holder, and when you pull it out, it makes like
Yes.
a, and that's how I felt.
Yes.
It felt how it sounded, and it,
Oh,
but that's the only, I
okay.
couldn't think of another way of how the noise was, but it sounded like you're pulling a knife out of the collection that you have
Yeah.
by the oven. I don't know. Or not the oven, but
That's a No, I know what you mean. That No, it is the oven, and that is actually a better and nicer way of describing it than a wet crunching.
Ugh. It would be like pulling out the knife out of a, I don't know what you
Oh, I
call them,
see.
a knife holder.
Knife rack. Knife rack. Yeah,
Yes,
I'm gonna
that's it.
go to my knife rack after this conversation.
Have a
I'm
go.
gonna listen to that sound.
Yeah, I might do it as well
I
and
can't
just be
wait.
like, "Yep, it was definitely that sound."
Another thing, did you feel spiritual at any point? So when you were maybe waking up from the surgery or even beforehand or immediately post surgery, I think I had my most deep I had a real spiritual connection. Did you have it?
I am
Okay.
Christian, so to me, I was very much
Right.
holding on to my faith, and there were so many
Yes.
experiences in the hospital where I got really scared because I wear glasses, and I couldn't wear my glasses because it rubbed on my scar. So I was constantly
Yes.
blind, which was just at night when it's all black and or you just hear the
God.
bleeping
Yeah.
noises, would feel
Yeah.
really uncomfortable. My faith was the only thing that went into place, and I was like, "I'm okay, I can take anything." That's
Yeah,
felt
great. Yeah, mine was more my friend gave me a lot of crystal, and I would
Ah,
hold these crystals, and they'd calm me. I'd have a lot of panic attacks. So when I woke up, I would have the nurses would come to me quite a lot because I would start hyperventilating,
mm,
and it, I don't know why, probably just adrenaline or something, or the
yeah.
morphine. I don't know what it was, but I couldn't get my breathing under control, and I'd hold these crystals on my chest and just try and take deep breaths, and I'd get quite connected to that. And then I used to see animals everywhere, but not just a mouse or a cat. It would be a zebra or a
A cow.
giraffe. It would all be proper wild jungle animals,
But were you
or
comfortable?
African animals. And
Did it put you at
I would
peace?
feel very connected to nature and spirit. And it was such a strange feeling. I remember when I was allowed to walk, I was walking down the ward with
Yeah.
a nurse, and he would just listen to me, and he would talk to me about these animals. He was so kind, and now I look back, I don't know what I was saying. It just made me feel so alive and better, and it helped me get me through
It's just
in a way, and
focusing
it
on
felt very
something.
spiritual.
Yeah, it's like
Yes.
focusing
Yeah,
on
that's it.
something that takes you away from the
Yeah,
situation so your brain isn't quite so like in shock. It's just something to distract
that's
you.
right.
It's amazing what the body will
Yeah,
do, like that it will try and take care of itself basically. And you don't, everyone always says, "Oh, I don't know how
yeah,
you did it." And it's you actually, I could
yeah.
say, "Oh, you don't have any choice," but actually I think people would just really surprise themselves how much you can
Yes,
take and
yes.
it's probably worse for people watching you from afar than you going through it.
I agree. I think it's so much worse for them, and that's why I think that this counselling is so good as well, because they offer that to loved ones as well. It's not just for us, and I think it is them that are hit harder by it because
I
they're
yeah.
completely out of control.
Yeah, and they're so out yeah, they
Yeah.
have no control over it, and their emotions are
No,
equally as up and down, and they're scared, they're
of
worried
course.
that you're gonna die, they're I think a lot of my friends said, "You're just not the same you," and that was really hard to hear
Yes,
that, but maybe they needed some counseling to understand how to react to a person who's
that's
just had
right.
brain surgery. So it's not just us. It's like
That's
everyone
right.
needs a bit of
Yeah,
help and a bit of a hand holding for a bit while you're just
very much
adjusting.
so.
Yeah.
I agree completely. Yeah, yeah, completely.
So is there anything else we can mention? Why are we doing this Brain Tumour Awareness Month?
Yeah.
Why are we
Do you
actually doing this? And it's mainly to get the word out there because although we see brain tumors all over the place because we are so
Yes.
acute to it, like our brains, we hear it on the
Yeah.
TV or someone mentions something about brain surgery and you're like, but my ears go up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's so much information out there when you do start looking for it, but definitely don't look for it while you're undergoing treatment. Wait, let the consultants and let the doctors tell you
Yeah,
what's
or
going
just
on. I
some
think that's
groups. I think
all groups.
sometimes when you
Yeah.
first do your treatments and you've just come out and you go and look for groups, I actually would say just hold up a little bit, find a specific group for you, because if you just go
Yeah.
on to brain tumor, you're going to hear some of the
Yeah.
most upsetting stuff. And of course you're going to hear it because unfortunately there is a brain cancer out there. But I
Yeah.
do think sometimes is finding
Yeah.
your people to make sure that you find somebody that's had a meningioma. There are meningioma groups.
Your tribe.
Tribe,
Isn't
that's
it?
it. Your tribe.
It's your tribe. Yeah, it's your people who are on your level. And
Yes.
actually, I think I did do a couple of online meetups, but I found in the early days, they didn't help for me just because it was a lot of people who were really struggling. And I didn't, however awful this is, I didn't want to see that. I wanted to see people who were great and who had recovered and were functioning again because that's where I wanted to be. And so that's how I came across your podcast, actually, because I just started Googling it. There must be other people who've had a meningioma in their 40s or who've experienced this.
And they're doing good. They're doing well.
I think that's really important to find the people who are like-minded as well, because just because you've both had a brain tumor, it doesn't mean you're going to get on necessarily with the person or they're your sort of person. So yeah, I agree. You've got to find
your people,
someone who's had a brain tumor and someone who you like.
Yeah.
Because that's where you get the most sort of support from.
Yeah. Is there anyone you want to say thank you to?
Yeah, of course, the brain surgeon who saved my life. He's quite important. And his team. My friends were brilliant. They were there for me from the start, and these people have stuck by me. It's people who, there's the connection I've had since I've had this with certain people who know who they are, who have just stuck by me and accepted me and told me when I'm being irrational or helped me through really difficult periods. I couldn't have done it without them. And of course, my mum, who has just been there for me from the very start. And when I came out of hospital, she sat with me and she went through all the information with me and tried to help me make sense of what was happening. And again, it's the patience. You just need people to be patient, because sometimes you don't look any different on the outside, but inside you're struggling with all of these things.
And emotions,
Oh yeah, it's a roller coaster, isn't it? And to have those people who are just there to listen and understand and go on that roller coaster with you almost.
Yeah.
So they're with you when you're feeling terrible, but they're also with you when you're feeling elated, and sort of they come along for the ride. And that's been, I'm very grateful to those people.
Thank you very much.
Well, I love it. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Bye.
This is the Aunty and Brain Tumours talk show. It's a show full of informative chat and inspirational messages. The Aunty and Brain Tumours talk show on podcast.